Well, good evening and welcome to the 7 o'clock talk. And tonight we're going to talk about depression. And I hope it's not too loud. I'm outside and we seem to have a lot of traffic tonight. But let's talk about depression and how it relates to the body systems and how it relates to functional medicine and how that relates to you. So, one of the first things that we really have to think about with this when we look at the body systems from a functional medicine point of view, and I'm going to switch over to a, I actually have my screenwriter working, believe it or not. So, I'm going to add that to the stream and I'm going to pop this up. So, when we're talking about depression, and it's a really tricky thing for the medical profession to deal with because they want to look at serotonin and they want to look at dopamine, mainly serotonin, because that's what they give. They give selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They also give precursors for serotonin and dopamine. But let's take another really just look at this. And I just want to apologize right now. We have been extremely busy, and Jessica is out educating patients on testing. And part of what I'm going to talk about now is this testing that we're doing, which is for the adrenals. So everybody thinks about the adrenals as these things that produce adrenaline and they help produce epi, norepi, cortisol, and stuff like that. They sit on top of the kidneys. The adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. And one of the things that we have to think about with this is they do regulate our stress hormones, cortisol, and when you want to think about cortisol, how that relates to DHEA and things like that. If you get stressed, cortisol goes up. How this affects the brain is that when cortisol goes up, you start to steal away your pregnenolone, which is a hormone that you need to produce testosterone, estrogen, um, what else? I mean, DHEA is a precursor. EA. So these things are the things. Oh, for women, that estrogen, that's your feel good hormone. But when cortisol goes up with stress, these all go down. And if you stay stressed long enough, what happens is the the blood sugar cortisol will raise blood sugar because you go into fight or flight. And this is going to be a little bit of a technical talk. Blood sugar goes up for fight or flight. As that happens, you enter what is called the Cori cycle if this is happening long enough. And the Cori cycle is part of how we produce energy. You have the Krebs cycle and you have the Cori, and I'm going to spell it wrong. I don't know if it's a C or a K. But when you eat something and glucose goes into this, you get out 30, I think, 4 ATP, and that's energy. So when you go into stress mode, you are actually making energy at a deficiency. So when one glucose goes in, you are now down. It'll produce ATP, but you go into a deficit of, I think it's 4 to 5 molecules of glucose. So if you stay in that long enough, you deplete all of your energy. And as you deplete your energy, Then your body wants amino acids. And I'll bring this all together here soon. Your body needs amino acids. And amino acids, remember, are the building blocks of everything in your body. So you now have affected your body's ability to produce your adrenaline, epinephrine, norepi, and all the other neurotransmitters. And because your body needs amino acids, once you start to burn through your stores, excuse my drawing, your body has, I'm going to change color, a layer of glutamate in the stomach. And that layer of glutamate in the stomach is extremely rich in amino acids. And this is part of your glutamate, your glutamine that forms what is called secretory IgA. And so your brain starts to starve and it says, hey, I need energy, I need amino acids. And it starts to burn through this area here. And when that happens, you start to get that leaky gut syndrome, which causes inflammation, which causes more stress on the adrenals. So now, not only can you not make your hormones, but your immune system is on high alert. And when you are diverting all of that energy to trying to maintain the immune system and maintain everything that's going on in the body, it doesn't allow for the conversion or the making of your epi and norepi, because your body will prioritize the maintenance of the immune system over the ability for you to feel good. And guess what else causes this? To add insult to injury to the gut, when you're eating sugars, highly refined foods, and stuff like that, that will boost your blood sugar. And when you boost that blood sugar, your body goes into that stress response again. And so then you keep augmenting this cycle. It becomes a positive feedback loop. Now, we try to break that feedback loop, like I said before, with serotonin, I don't do it. I'm a chiropractor. I don't have prescriptive powers. What they try to do is they try to break the cycle with SSRIs. And boy, I forget the other type of antidepressants that they use right off the bat, but they're highly addictive, and I just can't remember the name of them right now. But what that does is that drain, that body burden, continues to take you down that spiral. And not only that, but eventually in stage 1 of adrenal fatigue, what happens is, what is normal is cortisol goes high. And that's a good thing, because you need to run from that dog. You need to run from the saber-toothed tiger. There's a boulder about to fall on your head. Whatever the case is, you need that energy immediately to run away. Cortisol kicks up. You go into that afterburner mode. You start to burn things up. But then it's supposed to go down. And what happens is when cortisol goes down, then DHEA goes up. But what we see happening in stage 1 that stays there for a long, long time is the cortisol stays up and the DHEA never moves. And if you don't have DHEA, then you don't have the precursors to the hormones that you need to make you feel good, including your neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine. So in what I've seen in my own practice and what I've seen in other practices is once we start to get rid of the inflammation. So let's talk about inflammation for a second. Once we get rid of inflammation, and think about this, there are really only three things that cause problems in the body. You have stress, which stress, what we just talked about, raises cortisol, causes problems. Long-term stress raises cortisol, and DHEA doesn't come up to offset. Stage 2, cortisol drops and DHEA tries to make stuff up and it goes high. Stage 3, both cortisol and DHEA go low and you're just in a funk and you can't get out of it. And so stress, whether it be mental or it's financial or physical, your body views these all equivalent. They're all the same to the body. Next thing is foods can cause problems, because if you're sensitive to foods, then what happens is that it activates the immune system, and the immune system never gets to shut off. So let's just switch out for here for just a second. Let's talk about this. Your immune system is supposed to be like a very well-paid bouncer that knows what he's doing. That was a huge mosquito. Holy crap. But anyway, your immune system is supposed to be like a very skilled bouncer. And what he is supposed to do is when something happens, he gets up, goes and takes care of whatever the problem is, comes back and sits down. If you keep throwing food antigens in on this, then you keep activating the immune system and it never shuts down. And then you start to get into that problem with the brain being fatigued, and the brain can't recuperate. The body can't shut down. You lose the ability to sleep. All of this stuff starts to become a very positive feedback cycle. So the next thing is you have food, you have stress, and then you have inflammation. Inflammation itself. The thing about inflammation is that inflammation, the two biggest causes that we see in functional medicine of inflammation is inflammation in the gut or inflammation in the liver. So if we go back to depression, which is what we're talking about, if your liver is too busy detoxifying because you're getting to a point where you're having skin rashes and you're reacting to foods and you're having allergies and all these things are happening, so your body has to prioritize cleaning stuff up, then all of a sudden it starts to go into detox mode and it can't produce energy, and then you're just left sapped and drained. And so we have to get that inflammation down, but we have to know where it's coming from. Is the inflammation a parasite? There's a lot of stuff that medicine has wiped out, so it doesn't even think anything about. And they don't really test for H. pylori with PCR testing. They try to do a breath test, and that breath test has to be, the H. pylori has to be active right now, and it's just not happening. So it misses it. The PCR test is the best way to go for H. pylori. It's also one of the best ways to go for cryptosporidium. It's also one of the best ways to go for any occult infection, because you're picking up segments of DNA that make these things up, so then they can be addressed. So that inflammation that's either in the gut or in the liver, whatever the case may be, you have to get that under control. And then you have to start to soothe the adrenals, because the adrenals are very important to the secretory IgA and the mucous membranes to keep them all healthy. So when we look at that, what that looks like is when we are dealing with people and patients, we do 3 tests we do the adrenal test, then we test the gut, and this is stool. This is blood and urine, because it also looks at the hormones. And then we do what is called an omics test, which is also blood and urine. So we get to look at all of these things, and we start to address the adrenals first. Because if the adrenals go bad or are stressed out or fatigued, the adrenals affect thyroid, which affect the hormones, which affect everything. So if you're not getting to those things, those are the problems. And so if you have worked out, you're eating great, and you just can't lose weight, we got to go there. I hope I didn't bore you too much. I love this stuff. Jessica loves this stuff. Like I said before, she is out right now educating and working with some patients. I am going to get into I have a comment. Hi, Jerry. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And so Jessica is out educating on the adrenal test right now with some patients, and we have been getting busier and busier. I will tell everyone, if you're interested in this, the thing that has to happen is, I do know the labs are upping the prices October 1st. They have to receive the tests by October 1st. So if you are interested in getting yourself tested for these things, you will save yourself $400 by getting the test done before October 1st. With that being said, thank you all. Please, please, I hope you're learning stuff. Implement this, change your lives, change your loved ones' lives, and live a happy, healthy life. From Integrated Health of Indiana, this is Dr. Miller with a missing Jessica, Nurse Jessica. You have a great night. Hi, Susan.